Well, hello. Welcome to the DPB show and Ryan Mac.
Well, I'm still here, Ryan.
Yeah, I know you're still here. Where'd you
Tell them where
go?
I'm at. Well, I put solo layout and it just put you on there. So I
Oh,
figured that's a good way to open up the show.
there we go.
Hey, there I am. Hey, look at that.
Look at
See, you look much better than I do because you are in studio. And
that.
here I am. And I'll try to get the turned around. Yes, right behind me, folks, is Coors Stadium, actually Coors Field. I am in Denver, Colorado. Uh, Having an interesting time. I mean, the title of the show says a lot about what is happening here. I'm at what's called View House. It's a rooftop bar and grill right across from Coors Field, Ryan. And Tanya and I flew out here yesterday at early morning and come see her son and his wife. And we flew into Denver, the airport, which I don't know if you're aware of what's going on at the Denver airport,
I know they've
but
got a lot going on underneath of it,
they do have a lot
supposedly.
going on. They have a horse out in front of their airport called Lucifer.
Mm, makes sense.
Go on and look at that. Lucifer. What the? Well, I'll tell you what. It's Satan, and you can feel the presence of evil.
Yeah.
Needless to say, we took a train from the airport downtown Denver, and we were forewarned that when we actually start our little walk to my wife's youngest son's place, that we would find human feces in the street.
Mm,
And sure enough, there it is. And the homelessness and the graffiti. You know, President Trump says it best. You go woke, you're going to go broke. And it is broken. I mean, I don't know how deep it is. We're seeing we're seeing many signs of how broke it is.
yeah.
I mean, every topic we can talk about, homelessness, the condition of the people, the health and well-being of our nation, the southern border, energy, our food, the economy. When people don't realize, it's sad because I think they are truly in a trance. Am I sounding okay? Because I got a little wind behind me.
Got a little bit of wind, but you're all right. You're loud and
All
clear.
right. Well, I'm going to
Yep.
move back out of the way and get back to my seat. But we saw that right here, Coors Field behind me. So we're having Tanya and I are having a experience that we weren't prepared for. We always had illusions of what a Western city like Denver, Colorado looked like.
Yeah.
And it literally is a mini San Francisco.
It's pretty sad, isn't it? Watching those big cities that were once pretty cool to look at and go see and visit, pretty good hot spots, and now you're seeing it decay. What is the
Yep.
common denominator of all these rich cities in the West that
Yeah.
have suddenly become deserts?
Yep.
Democrat rule.
Yep. Yep. They're
So I
all
got some
run by.
numbers for you. You ready for some of these numbers?
Go ahead.
So when Democrats said that they're solving problems that they've created, since 2020, homelessness in the United States has increased, not gone down,
Yep.
with a record 653,000 people experiencing homelessness in January 2023, a 12% increase in just year over year. The Asian and Hispanic populations have seen the largest increases, 52 and 38%. But they've increased by more than 23% over the last 4 years, the number of people that have experienced homelessness. So what's your common denominator? Why are we experiencing a higher increase in homelessness? Is it personal choice? Is it circumstances that led them, beyond their control? Or is it the government playing a part in that?
It's definitely the policies. you know, Ryan, I just shared with you, I have an opportunity to deliver a message at church this Sunday. And hence the title of the show, How Bad Is It? How Broken Is It? You know, when the DPB show started on Cities 92.9 as a radio program, I said Illinois is broken, 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 but it's just not Illinois.
Yeah.
Our world is broken. You know, Tanya and I were talking about the absence of God is the presence of man trying to act as if Adam did in the garden, disobedient to God. And when you're
Hmm.
disobedient to God, you know, you see the manifestation of inhumanity. You know, I love that Robert F. Kennedy brought out some pretty amazing statistics about the health and well-being of our country.
Yeah.
The amount of money that we poured into another country in
Hmm.
order to appease neocons.
Yeah.
The the fact that we've always perpetuated our economy based on endless wars. I mean, I don't know how else we can really continue to advance. And ultimately, when Trump gets in November 6th, as we talked about the last show, the rental riots are going to start. There are people who benefit from the homelessness, human trafficking, the decline of our country. People actually are profiting off of the southern border. And it sickens me
Hmm.
that this is where we're at. And
Yeah.
especially as a as a Christian conservative person, and seeing this firsthand in a city the size of Denver. I
Hmm.
mean, I would expect it out of Chicago. And you know,
Sure.
credit to Chicago.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it to the level of that in Chicago. I'm not saying there's not bad places in Chicago and there's not a
Yeah.
but what we do in Chicago is through the powers of to be is we just pour money into it. We
Yeah.
throw money at it, and where does that money come from? I
Yep.
love it when people say government funded programs. There
Yeah.
is no government funded program.
Yeah. So
Tax,
California spent 24 billion in the state's homeless crisis. So it's a problem. Just throw money at it, right?
yep,
So a recent audit showed that homelessness increased by 50% on top of the increase in spending.
yep.
So that doesn't correlate to actually solving a problem. It's no different than a climate crisis they've developed. Let's just throw trillions of dollars at changing the planet's core energy to a 1 degree. Money doesn't solve any of the problems.
You know, Ryan, they have retooled the entire downtown Denver to accommodate. She went that way. Luis, my waiter, is coming. I'm actually live on my podcast right now. That's all right, Luis. Uh, Summer Ale. I am going to have another Summer Ale. I don't think she needs anything. All right, thank you. Uh, Luis is helping me out here at the View House Rooftop Bar, right across from Coors Field. Definitely go out, like, share uh, on all of the media sources, the DPB show, Ryan Mac show,
Yep.
share, because I think the content of what we're talking about, but circling back and talking about, you know, the disparity, the destruction, the decline, you
Yeah.
know, Illinois can afford through stealing from the people to prop up the economy. Like
Hmm.
you said,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily inject. Here they've retooled downtown Denver through the Green New Deal. Tanya and I just went out. The Lyft rides are these scooters, and they have bike lanes and scooter lanes. They have these things. Uber has it, Lyft has it. It's called, I think, Lime. But we went out and test rode the scooters.
Mm-hmm.
They're charging 50 cents a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the scooters are being used. They're torn
Yeah.
apart. People don't follow the law. They don't
Yeah. Of
go in the
course.
direction that they have. They go
Yeah.
against traffic. I mean, it's chaos
Yeah.
because that's what these people govern over. Is
Yep.
they love the chaos. They don't care if people follow the rules or follow the laws. They paid for those programs. You think Uber, and Lyft weren't given government, I'm sorry, taxpayer money
Mm-hmm.
to have these programs?
Yeah.
It just is mind boggling.
Yeah. It's not so much how much you spend as a local government or state government or national government, it's where the money is going to and what is it going for. You can spend all you want on the homelessness crisis, but what are you actually spending it on? And
Yeah,
what are you doing to alleviate it?
yeah,
Are you raising taxes on people who can't afford to live there already? And are
yeah.
they losing jobs? Are jobs leaving the state where they're forced to abandon everything? I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. The end of the COVID era assistance that states gave hundreds of dollars a week to people just to sit home, was that part of it too? I mean,
Thanks,
there's
Luis.
so many
Appreciate it,
things.
brother.
There's so many things that contributed to the increase, but housing affordability, rent, and mortgages and housing costs in general have skyrocketed over the last 3.5, 4 years. So I'm not surprised that we have a huge increase year over year when everything else continues to go up. When you
You
have
know,
job wages have not increased at the rate inflation is, that leads to stress, lack of affordability, and then it also could lead to marital and domestic problems as well. So other factors go up. It's just a
well,
never-ending cycle, like you said.
well, in the dropping off,
Yeah,
if you're truly focused, hyper focused, which is, and I want to get to the RFK thing.
yeah,
If you're truly hyper focused on building up the middle class and expanding our country and improving the well-being, health and well-being, not only the physical, spiritual, intellectual, emotional well-being, one of the biggest crises we have right now is teenagers and the youth of this world. Because what we're setting, the table we're setting for them is isn't very good. I mean, we are putting a burden on them that I don't know how you get out of it outside of a literally real life escape from New York.
yeah,
I mean, it's almost like cinema coming full circle to reality.
yeah.
And RFK hit upon that, and I do appreciate this because since our show on Thursday, this big announcement came out, and it's basically uh, out on the streets now. I mean,
Yep.
we're seeing it manifested through his family and what his family is saying and doing, um, which is it should show you that anytime, as Abraham Lincoln said, anytime the masses are going in the opposite direction, you're going in the right place.
Yeah.
You're going in the right direction.
When you're swimming against the current, as they
Yeah.
are in the Chosen series, that's how you
Yep.
know you're doing the right thing. Swim
Yep.
against the current, and you know you're
Yep.
on the right path.
Yep. Well, and they're falling like dominoes, and some of them. I'm not saying there isn't a ton of corruption in the Republican Party
Sure.
because there is, and there has been for years.
Yeah. Well,
And go ahead.
it's they've tried to pin the GOP to Trump thing like he's not the GOP. He is
No.
America first, and he is changing and transforming the GOP into that mold. They keep trying to tie him. See, he's not as conservative on abortion as you should be, GOP. He's not the GOP. The
Yeah.
GOP has turned far left in some regards. He is trying to pull it in a different direction. And RFK has tried to do this whole third party kind of thing because the Democrat Party has kicked him out. There's
Yeah.
a need for a third level of political class. It's too hard to navigate that when you have a two-party system that has corrupted it for hundreds of years. And Trump and RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and others are going to fit that mold of I'm not doing this the same way it has been done for this long. It's not working.
Well, and especially because he is a free thinker, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that he pointed out that he agrees with totally with the direction of this country is the free speech aspect.
Yeah.
You know, we were covering media literacy on last Thursday's show,
Yeah.
and the passing of the bill in the state of Illinois into our public school curriculum at the high school level. That now we're going to see, you know, they shied away. They said, "Oh, we're not doing culturally relevant teaching or
Yeah.
CRT.
Yeah.
We're not doing the DEI."
No, it's culture
and
responsive teaching. It's not critical
well,
race theory. It is
yeah,
all the same.
and
Yeah.
changing it up. And bottom line, now we're seeing it full circle that the governor of Illinois signed J.B. Pritzker, you know, the guy that says he's a self-made billionaire, which there's nothing self-made about him.
Yeah.
He signed into law a bill that allowed the public school systems to teach people that the content that we're seeing and we're hearing and it's being shared, and this is where the free speech thing comes in, it's the censorship. Look at what Zuckerberg finally came out and admitted.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that not?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what RFK was talking about, and why it is he couldn't, in good faith, bring himself to backing, you know, anyone else but Donald J. Trump.
Yeah. And he doesn't agree with Trump on everything either. That's the beauty of this old liberal versus conservative mindset, right? You didn't have to agree on how you got there. You agreed that there was one path forward. Liberty and freedoms were secured in America. And that's what this movement is. They are complete opposite on the climate, on some of the environmental stuff, but they agree censorship is wrong. Taking away freedoms is wrong. And there is one path forward. American traditional values, and that was not going in the direction of Democrat Party.
Yeah. Do you see
And
what
you have
Kat said there?
yeah, you have people coming out of the woodwork either supporting Trump or admitting, "Hey, yeah, we kind of messed this one up 4 years ago." Yeah, they're all running scared. They're going to get thrown in the gulag because this is revenge Trump. He doesn't have 2 terms. He has 1 term.
Yeah. And that's the essence of it is censorship. You know, isn't it funny? I remember there was a certain radio personality at City 92 who happened to be libertarian leaning, who would say time and time, censorship doesn't exist. Censorship doesn't exist. And now we have one of the wealthiest men in the world admitting that he was kowtowing.
Yeah, he was pressured by the Biden administration to censor posts and content. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't buy a whole lot of it. I think it's one of those cover your own ass things as a social media giant. I think he's like, see, this is what they told me to do.
Hey, Ryan, did you notice that with me wearing sunglasses, I actually look at the camera more? But you know, the cool thing about wearing sunglasses, maybe I should do this when I'm in studio, is I can look at my beautiful wife right sitting in front of me and still talk to you, and you don't even know that I'm looking at my beautiful wife.
That's the value of sunglasses.
I wear my sunglasses at night, so
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. There's a song about that.
So the corruption is one thing. We've known that states and local governments and federal government is corrupt beyond, reasonable levels. We know the homelessness has gone up. What are some underlying factors from red states to blue states? Because red states have large cities that are problematic. So you can sit there and say, is it Republican governors or is it Democrat-run cities? So there's the divide there. Democrats will say, well, most of the dangerous cities and corrupt cities are in red states. Well, it's a little bit more micro than that. It's who's running those cities within those states too.
Yep.
because the
Yep.
governors only control so much statewide.
Well, and I do agree that you can have plenty of cities where they're within red states
Yeah,
that have Democrat government. So I brought that up when we were up in Milwaukee.
yeah,
Milwaukee's a huge city
mm-hmm.
and did an amazing job with the
Yeah,
RNC convention. And
yeah,
their mayor is a Democrat.
yeah,
And he was one of the first people to address the RNC convention.
yeah,
And you can tell how well grounded he is. He would be what Robert F. Kennedy was referring to as his dad and his uncle,
right,
and what the Democrat Party used to represent.
yeah,
And this young man, I mean, I was impressed with him. In fact, I still haven't been able to go and do a deep dive on him, but he
right.
welcomed everybody. He said, "Do you realize what the economic impact the RNC convention or the RNC has on my town? We are so pleased that you
Yeah,
guys are here.
they
That
embraced
you're
it, right?
oh they
It's the
wrap their
tale
arms
of two
around."
cities. You had RNC and Milwaukee that were open for business. You had Chicago, where you had businesses and local areas being boarded up because they were worried about losing their business.
That's right.
We talked about the contrast between the 2 weeks. That's just the difference. It was still kind of a Democrat-run city, but they made sure the RNC was the focus.
Well, and Wisconsin, obviously, from this mayor's standpoint,
Yeah.
he gets it. He worked
Mhm.
with the former governor of Wisconsin, Walker, to
Yeah.
put on this RNC convention because that's why Wisconsin is a swing state. That's why
Mhm.
Wisconsin is in play, is because the the Democrats in Wisconsin are at least aware of what RFK was talking about, which we're in trouble with the trending of what is happening in major cities. Now, I will
Mhm.
tell you, you don't see I'm not saying that Milwaukee doesn't have its problems, it does, but you don't
Yep.
see, when we literally came in on a train from Denver's airport, the pagan satanic temple, which it is, my gosh. Once again, go out and look at it. Go out and look at the course that's in front of
Yeah, I've seen a
Denver's
picture of it. I was looking it up. Holy cow. It's really creepy.
Lucifer.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right out in front of
they're
the
not even.
city?
That's right out in front of the airport.
Oh, the
They're not
airport.
even. They're not even hiding it anymore. Like I said, they're just flat out just putting it out there in your face. There's gargoyles, statues of gargoyles in the airport, in the
Oh my gosh.
terminals.
Now, I'm gonna ask you a tinfoil hat question.
Go
Do
ahead.
you know what's underneath the airport?
Well, I
What
don't.
they're trying to
There's
build? What the talk
what.
is that there's tunnels and all kinds of things underneath the airport. Have you been able to
Yeah.
look around?
Well, it's perpetual, ongoing construction, and you're right. I don't know if you can get access to those areas, but think about it. That construction on that airport started, and not to say that O'Hare isn't constantly
Sure.
revamping itself, because it is, but the underground foundation work that was done. Now, this was back in 1992. Here we are, 2024, at the Denver International Airport. They say there is a city underneath that airport, and we don't know, and it could be reminiscent of what we're seeing. Come on, if you're willing to put satanic
Mm-hmm.
images and statues in your airport
Yeah.
and have it out in front of your airport, I don't
Mhm.
know what else to think.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, my wife is saying Lucifer, obviously, for all of you out there, Luciferian,
Yeah.
however you say it, it's Satan. It's
Yeah.
satanic. Lucifer was the fallen angel. That's how Satan came to be. Was Lucifer? God casted Lucifer out. He was a angel in good faith, but decided he wanted to. Well, he knew more than God did. Imagine that.
Mm.
People who follow Lucifer, follow Satan, who are disobedient to God, know more than God knows. And
Yeah, I don't
that's
imagine that ending up really well.
no, and hence the reason that I think we're at where we're at right
Yeah.
now in our culture
Yep.
is, I had an opportunity to catch up with Darren Bailey this morning, and Darren said the same thing. How do we overcome what is going on? And we know that without a question, prayer, we've gotta appeal to God. We've got to get
Yeah.
on our knees. We've got to pray about it. But that we just can't just pray. I mean, prayer moves mountains, there's no question. We've got to act. We can't sit around and wait for somebody else to do it. And
Yeah.
part of that is we've got to actively get involved in fortifying uh, the states that we know we're strong in,
Hmm.
mobilizing people in the states where we're not so strong,
Yep.
and making sure that we continue to move the needle.
Yeah.
And Darren and I were talking about this. Come on, JB won an election in 2018 from the previous gubernatorial election in 2014 by almost 800,000 more votes.
Yeah.
Darren Bailey lost by 400,000 votes. I mean, we've got we've got a lot of work in Illinois, but that's reminiscent of every blue state, whether it's
Yeah.
California, New York, Minnesota. I mean, how entrenched these people are, and we know what they're willing to do to their cities. Look at
Yeah.
Tim Walz, the candidate for vice president
Yeah.
under the Harris
Mostly, yeah,
Walz.
mostly peaceful cities on fire during his reign as governor.
Uh, he basically allowed it to. He
Yeah.
orchestrated, he manipulated, he allowed it to happen. And in fact, knowing now what we're starting to find out, reports like this, and this is just not DPB saying it. Here in front of Coors Field out in Denver, Colorado. If you're just tuning in, appreciate everyone. Like, share, whether you're on X, whether you're on Rumble, whether you're on YouTube, or whether you're on Facebook. Oh, you did that. Thank you. My wife said, coming to you. Yep, she put it on. She put it out there. And of course, I have moments where I've got so much running through my head that
Well, there's a
that
lot
that
coming at us, so it's hard to take
well
in everything and then kind of reprocess that.
well and that was my point. That's why I was going on that diatribe, that rant. And you're not seeing a lot of uh, postings of videos and sharing everything, because literally that's part of the sickness I think we have in our culture right now,
Yeah.
is people are looking and consuming so much, and it is so conflicting. And some people aren't even consuming any of it. They're literally just laying back and and using it as white noise. It's
Yeah.
also it's hypnotic. It puts them in a trance,
Yeah.
and not a trance for the better, because millions of people go through that Denver airport every year.
Mhm.
Do you think they're acknowledging what they see, what is around
Uh,
them?
it is the first time I've heard that that was out there is when you mentioned it. It's not been
Really?
in the mainstream media. It's not been in, other
No,
media forums. Nobody's talked about it nationally. It has never been a thing
no,
unless you actually have been out there, which is
no.
pretty funny because millions of people come through there, like you said, and you'd think somebody would say something, put pictures. I mean, it's on pictures of the internet, but nobody has talked about it.
Well,
It's just like, oh well, it's just a horse, a blue horse. Who cares?
it's only been in the last couple of years, Ryan, that I've been introduced to the whole concept of Molech,
Hmm.
and all of the powers on the dark side of life here on this earth.
Hmm.
And you start realizing human trafficking, homelessness, everything that is so. I referred to it earlier, and I don't know if people realize this. It is the Walking Dead. People around us are literally, as I said, in a trance, but it's deeper than And when how do we walk out of this? How do we come out of this? I mentioned Brandon Straub. the young man who came up with a movement and then, of course, was persecuted and put in jail and tried to be defaced or deplatformed by the left. But he was uh, a man who was gay and walked away from his lifestyle, not necessarily being a gay man,
Mm-hmm.
walked away from the precept, the, the perspectives of what he was supposed to think, what he was supposed to do. And one day he woke up and he said, "No, I'm not going to do it anymore. I encourage you to go out there and watch this video." It is fascinating to see the movement he's created and putting into people, and literally, uh, and that's what it's going to take. I mean, and it's going to take a lot of us doing it. Is speaking life into people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I don't want to live through this life because, interesting enough, Ryan, someone I met in my neighborhood recently while I was out walking Bella said if Christ were to come back to earth today, we would crucify him again. Well, I wasn't thinking on my feet, nor did I want to create a controversy with this gentleman
Yeah.
as far as what his belief system was. But he, my wife points out this. This is the point that I think that is critical. Is that if Christ isn't going to come back as a lamb, Christ is going to come back on a white horse. He's going to come
Yep.
back as the victor because everything in his life is already accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
not. He's not coming back the same way he came the first time.
he's not coming back to be crucified.
No.
But the point being is we've got to stop living that way.
Yeah.
We are the victors. We have won the battle.
Mm-hmm.
The fight that some people think they're in is a false positive.
Yep.
We don't have to do the battle. The battle is won. We do have to remain active, as I started to mention earlier. We have
Yeah.
to fortify those places where we are strong. We
Yep.
have to mobilize in places where we're weak. And mobilizing, what does that mean? We've got a lot of ground to cover, at least in Illinois, based on statistics. We've got 600, anywhere from 400 to 600,000 votes we have to pick up.
Yep.
And so it's pretty impressive that I think the word's getting it. And I believe things like this are getting beyond censorship. And now we have people openly admitting, like Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
that they have deceived the people. Isn't it funny, as you said, what are they, as Kat mentioned,
Yeah.
are they trying to stay out of the gulag?
Right.
Because these people have been, what is it? What's that show that used to be out there on cable TV? Punking?
Yeah.
Have we been
Yeah.
punked? Yeah, we've been punked.
Yeah.
We've
Well,
been punked for a long
we've
time.
known about so much of this for the last 4 years, what these big billionaire social media giants were doing and what the federal government was doing. But everybody else is just now seeing it because they're coming out now. It took them 4 years to get this information out with COVID, with social media, and what the government was doing. And now we know exactly what Joe Biden was doing this whole time and Kamala Harris were doing. We're seeing the governors of the states, what they did during COVID. We're seeing more come to light. And, when we talked at the beginning of the year, more in 2024, it's only August coming into September. We still have 2 months till open day here, and there's early voting coming next month. There's a lot
Yep.
happening before the end of the year. And there's this kind of, I've seen it on X a little bit. There's this kind of uneasiness, like looking over your shoulder, like what's happening, because some people are just kind of walking around with their heads down and kind of not really paying attention to what's around them. What is the feeling when you're out and about on other states? Do you get a sense that people are more openly talking about things, or it's just kind of like tunnel vision, where something big is around the corner, like an
Well,
October surprise, or the government's going to do something deceptively again?
the interesting thing is having the ability to travel through Kentucky, Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, and then Florida. And then next week, Tanya and I will be going back to Kentucky, Tennessee, and South Carolina. South Carolina, a very red state. Tennessee, a red state. Kentucky, a red state from, in some instances, they
Yeah.
have a Andy Bashir as their governor, who is just, once again, has sold his soul to the devil.
Yep.
But then coming out here to Colorado, to a blue state with a blue city like Denver, and looking around, to answer your question, what are people doing? Well, in the red states, people are fired up. I was
Mhm.
looking at one of those boat parades for Trump,
Yeah.
and people are fired up. I'm
Yeah.
sure it is out here in Colorado, but it gets back to, they are in a trance.
Mhm.
They are mesmerized. They are hypnotized.
Yeah.
They are so, when they talk about Rocky Mountain High, these
Mhm.
people are they are drinking the Kool-Aid
Yeah.
of the evil
Yeah.
one. And I
Yeah.
mean, come on, you are in a city that, and I know we're kind of beating this, you openly accept satanic images. They
Yeah.
called the horse in front
Lucifer.
Lucifer
Openly. Think about that.
openly.
And then you have
Clearly,
people defecating on the streets, like we're supposed to
yeah,
be okay with that.
yeah.
Like, how far have we decayed or declined as a society when we start accepting large cities just allowing people to defecate on the streets or live on the
Yep.
streets? Now, I
Yep.
get there's personal life situations that happen, and we've all fallen on hard times. But as a society, one of the richest countries in the world can't solve one of its worst problems.
Well, and the interesting thing is,
And it's
and
not getting back to socialism thing, but it's kind of like a correlation. How do you solve it without just dumping a bunch of money into the system?
well, I'm going to give you an example of how to solve it. What we need to do, and Donald Trump Jr. was already all over this. He went and
Hmm.
visited the president of El Salvador. Look at what El Salvador did.
Yep.
El Salvador is probably one of the safest places. What used to be one of the most dangerous places to ever go
Yeah.
has now become one of the safest places on the earth. And what did their president do? He said, "We're not tolerating. We're going
Yeah.
to start rounding people up."
Yep.
And you have to realize, when we started to close mental facilities in the United States,
Yep.
when we started to not incarcerate people and let people out free, no, $200 pass
Hmm.
go, when
Hmm.
we started to openly
Yep.
put in, like the state of Illinois, the Safety Act, and
Yeah.
promote criminals and
Yeah.
elevate
This
criminals,
is what.
and
What else do you expect?
so there is solutions.
Hmm.
Look at El Salvador.
Yeah.
Look at what they have done as a country. And you have people here in the United States wanting to actually relocate there, because why would they go there? Because
Yeah.
of safety. And
Hmm.
you've got old school people who are used to a way of life. This
Yep.
is, and I guess this is kind of a way, and I don't want to keep us long today because,
Sure.
I'm in a mile high city. I'm sucking in the air, and it does. It
It's a
has me a
little
little
hard to breathe out
tired,
there, isn't it? Yeah.
and I'm drinking a couple beers here at the
Yeah.
View House,
Yeah.
rooftop bar and grill across from Coors Field. Um, you know, we 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 live in this world, and it's it is a world in the United States of America where Democrats and Republicans tended to not necessarily agree always on policy, but they at least agreed on the principles and the substance
Yeah.
that made us a great country. And
Yes.
that's what Robert F. Kennedy was saying.
Yeah.
You know what? You can disagree. But
Yeah.
bottom line, when you start looking at retooling a country into a third world country, And that's what the president of El Salvador said. You
Hmm.
guys are going in the wrong direction. He
Yeah.
goes, that's not going to lead anywhere. If you think that giving people everything from other people, because once again, the government's not in the business of making money. The government is in the business of taking money. And they are, I mean, the platform of Kamala Harris taxing 25% on capital gains, unrealized
Yeah.
capital gains.
Yeah.
So that means that if you're living in your house and it's $100,000 and next year the value is $125,000 and you
Yep.
haven't sold your house,
Yeah.
they come in and they tax you on the $25,000.
Hmm. That's
In
insane.
what world does that make sense?
Well, and then you have California offering 150,000 up to 150,000 assistance for first-time home buyers, but you can't be an American citizen.
Yeah,
That's the qualification. It's nuts. California is a United States state,
yes.
and they're
It is
offering
one of
up to
the
$150,000.
and that created charters. And this gets back to the blatant disregard for the Constitution. I'm
Yeah,
not talking about the fact that the power lies within the states, because it does.
right.
But the cool thing is, you can vote with your feet. You don't have to stay in
Mhm,
Colorado or California, any of the
mhm,
C states, Connecticut,
mhm.
California. What other C states are there? Colorado. There's 8 of them. I'm drawing a blank right now. Let's see if we can nail them. But any Democrat state that's controlled,
Yeah,
you can leave there.
yep.
Illinois. Oh, that's not a C, but it's right in there.
It's run like a C state.
Yeah, it's run like a C state. Bottom line is you can vote with your feet. You can leave those states. And, I'm not telling you that my wife and I haven't given strong consideration of fleeing Illinois, the
Yeah,
land of the Lincoln,
yep,
that is the epitome of freedom. Abraham Lincoln was the president who basically redefined what we are as a country and what freedom truly means. And now we've become a slave state again. It is a plantation state, as Candace
mhm,
Owens would say.
mhm,
We are a plantation state. People are captivated. And what is most of it? It is government rule,
yep,
government controlled pension programs,
yep,
government controlled government controlled businesses. We hear a lot about private public partnerships.
yeah,
What does that mean? That's not
yeah. We heard a
capitalism.
lot about that during the pandemic, where they tried to work with pharmaceutical companies or pharmacies or grocery stores during that time. You heard a lot of that language starting up during COVID again. And that's how you dissolve into socialism as a country. When you
Yeah,
start having a government into every aspect of a society, that creates more homelessness and the decay of a society. See no further than Venezuela. We've seen that in Venezuela. Homelessness, crime, defecation of the streets, lawlessness. We have a government that supports complete and unfettered lawlessness. We have reduced the number of population in our jails. We have reduced the number of people in mental institutions. We have adjudicated rights of people that should be in prisons. These are things that governments should not be doing in order for a society to remain stable and one of the world's leading powers. You have to be a law and order, and you have to protect the citizens of that country. You can't be subsidizing people's way of life. The greatest way to grow wealth as a nation and as a people is to support a system in which the America was built on. Capitalism is flawed, but it allows you as an individual to grow your own wealth, and one of the greatest wealth growing was owning a piece of property. And now you have the government taxing those gains on that value of the property. You have governments taxing the crap out of your salary and going after the billionaires and CEOs of companies. I'm all for large corporations paying their extra share, as Democrats call it. But when you have a government that has said we're going to make the corporations pay fair share of more taxes and not price all these goods above a certain amount, that creates a place of less goods in the economy and higher prices. We talked about the price controls recently. When you have a government getting into price controls, you have less goods in the economy being produced, and then you create a whole new level of shortages and an economy that is worse than it is right now. So many steps can lead to a decay of society, but lawlessness and government controlling of the economy, and among other things, that's what really
Well,
causes the decay of society.
I'm going to have to figure out how to work this out, Ryan. But when somebody calls in,
Yeah,
while I'm off my stream yard.
that's
So
all right.
uh, there you are. I'm back. Sorry about
Yeah,
that. Thanks for carrying the load for me.
yeah.
I wish I know what you said, but I'm sure it
Well, it was
was to the
leading
point.
into,
It was
yeah,
spot
what are
on.
the factors, the unrealized gains, the government control of economic activity, price controls, things like that that lead to all these things that we're talking about in decline, homelessness, corruption. Uh, when it's funny when Democrats talk about price controls, like they want to cap groceries below a certain amount and produce certain things under a certain price. If I make my phone for $5 and I sell it for eight, I'm making $3 on it. The government comes in and says, no, you can't make it more than $5. I'm not incentivized to make it anymore because I'm not making money. So I'm just gonna stop making it. That's what happens when you start controlling things as an economy when the government gets involved. Companies will not produce more when they can't make money on it. That's
Look
how
at
this
that.
works.
I wish I would have known that I could just spin
Oh
my
yeah,
thumb
there you
around
go.
like this, and
Panoramic view.
I can get Coors Field all behind me and everything.
Yeah.
Look at that. That gives us a whole different outlook.
You should do a separate channel launch of like travels with DPB and just go across the country and just trying to just podcast your travel.
You know what? That might be a good idea.
Yeah.
I should have, but we are kind of doing that, Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, we're not, as you and I have said many times over, we're not getting paid for doing this,
No.
and nor, at this point, I don't want to be paid. With the way that this country is going, the nation in decline that we are,
Yeah.
and the suffering that's going on out there,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I thank God that Tanya and I are able to go across this country right now.
Yeah.
And granted, we're not getting out to California, but we're
Sure.
here in
Yeah.
Colorado, which is, I think, the essence of California, because all the people from
Yeah.
California
Well,
thought that they could find safer territory by coming to the east. And what they have done is they just basically exported their way of life to a state that I
right.
think was thriving at one time.
Mhm.
Now, what
Well,
you
and that
see,
that
it's
ties into what I was talking about earlier. The greatest wealth creation is individualized in this country. The value of individual freedom to grow your own wealth. You two have worked very hard all of your lives to build a level of, hey, we can go do these things because we've built that life. We don't have to worry about working until you're 80 or 90 because you haven't, sufficiently put away a certain amount of retirement living. But and your kids are grown. It's the same process. If you build it the way you dream it, you can do it too. But that's the American dream, and we're losing that.
and we're losing it, and yet more and more people are waking up. I do believe this.
Mhm.
I don't want to end the show on a sour
Yeah,
note.
absolutely.
You know, Behind me in Coors Field tonight, the team here in Colorado is doing it as well as the city is, which
Yeah.
they're not like the Chicago White Sox where they have over 100
Yeah.
losses already this year, but
Yeah.
they're battling the Marlins tonight, and both of them are at the bottom of their division. They don't have a chance to win,
Mhm.
but this stadium tonight still is going. I don't know how many people attend the game.
Yeah.
It won't be a capacity crowd by any means, but there'll be
Sure.
20,000, maybe
Yeah.
30,000 people.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that many that show up. You'll see them coming in from the areas outlying,
Mm-hmm.
what I call, which is interesting because that's similar in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
The further you get away from the inner city,
Yep.
the freer the people are,
Yeah.
and the wealthier they are, and the less controlled they are. And if
Mm-hmm.
you get down into the land of Lincoln, where Darren Bailey lives,
Yep.
we don't even accept the governor. In fact,
Yep.
the governor has nothing to do with how we live down in Southern Illinois
Yeah.
because he knows that if he can control Chicago, he can control the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
And I think that we saw that on stage in the
Yeah.
DNC.
Uh-huh.
What a poor job those people are doing at
Yeah.
running anything.
Yeah.
They're
You have
fake. They lie
yeah.
about everything, and
Bernie
they
Sanders.
think,
Bernie
yeah.
Sanders on stage saying "screw the billionaire," and then you have a billionaire behind him saying, "No, no, not me. I made my own."
And Kamala Harris talking about pedophiles
Yeah.
and human
Yeah.
trafficking,
And you've
and
got
then
Bill
Bill Clinton
Clinton.
comes on.
Yeah, you can't make this up. This is the DNC. This is the corrupt type of people we're dealing with. But you're right. Getting back to that, the freer you are financially, not just, I'm not talking about being wealthy, but just the inner city has devolved in this like kind of poor community, and the suburban way of life is more of a generally more freer financially, so they do more. But it's the way this country is being built in these cities.
Well,
Well, I see
Ryan,
it
I
in
think we beat
California,
this.
and we see it in New York. We can make these cities great again, but we have to do our part.
I sat in this very place yesterday, and there was a, a four-top table of people that had come from Des Moines, Iowa,
Yeah,
and they came out to Red Rock, which is an amphitheater out here in Colorado, to see John Fogerty.
yeah,
And it was delightful conversation because they talked about a lot about the values that most of us hold until they started talking about they just got back from Ireland. And one of the things is they spent a lot of time in Scotland. And they were just enamored with the fact that in Scotland, they had the most pristine streets, no homelessness, no drugs, and the police didn't carry guns. So you see where this was going real quick? I thought that was interesting. So I quickly interjected, and it kind of ended the conversation with them. I said, interesting. They don't have an open border, and they don't have drug cartels.
mm-hmm.
Sounds like we got the solution.
Yeah.
Let's get Scotland's laws into the United States. Maybe we too can have pristine cities.
Yeah.
Because, where you find pristine cities, like in Australia, they don't tolerate criminality.
Right.
Unfortunately, in some instances, they are,
above and beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, they become they're bordering dictatorship.
Yeah.
And the rule of a tyrant rather than the rule of the people.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Because I've had to do this live with my shoulder that's injured, and I've had to do it holding my phone up, I'm going to end our show.
There we
today because I think we beat it up. We are here in Colorado. I've got my Cubby blue hat on, representing in front of the Rockies Stadium, the Colorado Rockies. Coors Field, DPB. Now Thursday, the show's going to be awesome. I'm going to be on a plane heading back to Illinois, and Ryan is going to be taking charge of the DPB show.
Special guest host.
Not only a special guest host, but he might have a lot of special things to share with us.
Yep.
Ryan, I always appreciate you helping out and doing all you do to keep us a free country, the land of the free, the home of the brave. Until Thursday, and Ryan will be in the driver's seat. Yep. And so that means that I won't see you till next Tuesday. I'm going to tell you what I've always said. I love you. I know Ryan loves you too. Thanks for being part of the DPB show. But Jesus loves you more. Until Thursday, we bid you farewell.